And Thompson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all. We are all Irish today, as they might say, in the world of celebration. And we have the luck of the Irish today. It's a beautiful, gorgeous, pre-spring day. Yahoo! I'm so happy to have all of you here. Thank you so much. My name is Rachel Cohen. For those of you who don't know me, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of being one of your public servants. I do work for the Monmouth County full time. I'm in my 25th year. I'm so excited about that. And every moment is a ride and a wave. So thank you for being here and supporting all of these fun, different programs, whether it's inside, outside, and all the different seasons that we have here. So yeah, you guys are in for a treat. My other co-conspirator, as he likes to use, Robert Goodman, and I have known each other for several years, and he bamboozled me into being part of his spoken word event many moons ago. I've done a couple with him, and then somewhere along the line, I said, "Hey, let's do this. What do you think?" And he said yes, and so we are here today at our second spoken word event. So without further ado, you guys are in for a really, really nice performance and reading and selections of what's well curated and directed by Robert. Yeah, so spoken word, Celtic Folklore.
Yeah, my name is Robert Goodman. I am a local poet, a member of Monmouth County Poets, which is operated by Gregg here in the more fair months. Weather-wise, we actually meet out at the Thompson barn. If you'd like to see a schedule, that would be actually in our program. In the slower months, well, we meet here. And
it's wonderful.
It's very nice to see a number of familiar faces, all these are new faces, and just very exciting to have such a great turnout for this event, which allowed us to do Celtic folklore and poetry on St. Patrick's Day. I know there's a bunch of folks down at Kelly's and Neptune. You guys made the right choice. And also just I noticed no one took the front row of the seats. I'm very glad that we're all positive that those are the premium subscribers. But I will invite you after the 7:50 breaks to, pretend like it's Yankee Stadium and get down into the box. Anyway, welcome to the Thompson Park Visitor Center. And acknowledgement, a big thank you to commissioners and the programs they run. The poetry initiative the Monmouth County Poets actually runs out of the Department of Recreation, where Rachel has been curating this for 5 years. It's really turned into quite a big deal for folks, and just glad that we've been able to do events like this. Now, a little bit of background, I won't belabor it, but we actually started talking about this back in August. We somehow were looking ahead, but little planning that we do, and we saw, we like doing things in March. We like doing Irish Theme programs in March. There's certainly a great vein of literary, canon that we can draw from to do these things. It turned out on this day, on the Sunday afternoon, we were going to be able to do it on St. Patrick's Day. So we took some careful planning. Now, we have done work, we have done production of just simple Irish poetry by Irish poets. Both those in the Irish Literary Revival, Irish poets, modern contemporary poets. But we want to do something a little different in that there's a really rich vein of material which has to do with Celtic folklore. And looked to a number of those poets and how we might be able to arrange a program. If you look through the program, you'll notice that the first half of our presentation today is mostly focused on works by Yeats. And there's some good reasons for that. I won't talk about them now when we start our second act, which won't be that long, by the way. I'll talk a little bit about why he's such an important figure when it comes to Celtic folklore. Some of the other poets that we have selected, we've got James Clarence Langdon, who is a rather amazing poet, and actually, he was someone who was very evocative in terms of the imagery that he could create with words. And I'm gonna probably suggest to you that in your own mind's eye, upon hearing what we hear today, that he'll preach in a place that not many of them. Some of them are very emotional pieces, especially the one piece by Even Bowman, who just passed away just a couple of years ago, and her work is pomegranate. It's not exactly Celtic folklore, except for the connection that it does make within the program, and it's something very careful to listen to. And then there is a magnificent set of pieces around a little white cat and the monk who owns him. And these were two pieces. I'll just entitled Under Behn. We'll hear a little bit more about that from our leaders. I'm going to just quickly introduce our performance review, because I'm going to ask that you withhold applause until the end of each act. Just drive the flow to go a little bit better. Although it's absolutely stupendous. Go right ahead. I won't restrain you. Our first speaker will be Gregg Brown. Gregg is a local poet, not a prolific local poet, and the best that I know, and was delighted, having heard him read several pieces as part of his work with the River Reed series in Red Deck, was delighted that he was willing to join us today. I also have Susan Davies with us, who very dear person to me, who is actually more talented than I can imagine. She's a musician, and she's also a rather really great reader. You'll learn more about this later today. And then one of my oldest friends from around these parts, we both grew up in Middletown. I've never seen that in about 15, and that's Sandra Behn. So a little bit of a welcome for them.
So today's first poem is going to be Hosting of the She by William Butler Yeats. And the She are the fairy folk of Ireland. And so the hosting of the She is sort of they're all gathering to ride across Ireland and it invites you away to fairyland, the land of eternal youth. And indeed, Yeats introduced a number of folk figures in the poem, but basically they're sort of all just in the spirit of like setting the mood, sort of like a Halloween kind of like ooh, spooky, but not too spooky setting. And the goddess of the land of eternal youth, Neum, is the one who in the poem will be calling away, come away, so come with me to fairyland. And some other characters are introduced. Celt, who's sort of like a flash. He has got some supernatural powers. They will move very fast and is described as burning hair. As you might imagine, Flash if he was like a redhead, right? And Cloth na Bear is a fairy who was so depressed about being eternally alive that she found the deepest lake in Ireland to drown herself. And that fairy took a run over her grave along their way to seducing the rest of us to come to their land. Hosting of the Sheep. The host is riding from Knock na Ray, and over the grave of Cloth na Bear, Celt tossing his burning hair, and Neum calling, away, come away. Empty your heart of its mortal dream. The winds awaken, the leaves whirl round, our cheeks are pale, our hair is unbound. Our breasts are heaving, our eyes are agleam, our arms are waving, our lips are apart. And if any gaze on our rushing band, we come between him and the deed of his hand. We come between him and the hope of his heart. The host is rushing twixt night and day, and where is their hope or deed as fair? Celt tossing his burning hair, and Neum calling, away, come away.
Well, The next piece in today's program is entitled "The Song of Wandering Anger." I become familiar with this piece probably about 10 years ago. I started reading an anthology of the work of those about movies. And I just was entirely charmed by the piece. If you've never heard it before, you're in your treat, or at least I'll try to give it justice. If you want to see someone who can do it much better than I, other than say Yates himself, and he's not available. Michael Gambon, the Irish actor, did a magnificent production of that online, and you can find it on YouTube, and it is truly magnificent and well produced. But about the program, what's unique about it is that, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in the second half, is that Yates was actually the curator of a great deal of Celtic folklore that he gathered and had pulled together. Now, come on in. We have a program if there's any left. Lots of seats right up here, so everyone can go to take your lead. And it's a tough one. Welcome, thank you. Getting back to Angus. So what's unique about it is that when he wrote this, he didn't actually draw on any specific piece of folklore from Irish mythology, except for the fact that the character's name is actually named after a minor deity in Irish mythology. It was formerly known as Angus Og, and Angus Og was, if you were to find an equivalent in, say, other mythology, he was probably Balder in Norse mythology. He was a beautiful young prince, but apparently couldn't find a date. So yeah, he was a guy who was kind of known for being the perfect specimen of what is the best of being an Irish prince, and yet never could find the one true love. And from that, out of whole cloth, he wrote out the Song of Wandering Angus. And it also has other mythological elements in it that you might be able to equate with, again, some other mythologies, such as a Norm, a water fairy, for lack of a better term. But without further ado, or belaboring on my part, I'm share with you the Song of Wandering Angus by William Butler Yeats. I went out to the hazelwood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in the stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire flame, but something rustled at the door, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glittering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I find out where she's gone and kiss her lips and take her hands and walk among the dappled grass and pluck till time and times are done. The silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun.
Well, we haven't heard Gambon, so it's Sandra to us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am excited to be here today to celebrate poetry and folklore. My own Celtic ancestry is rich in the arts, but it's Welsh. But since it's believed that St. Patrick was born in what is now Scotland or possibly Wales, I guess it's true we all get to be Irish. Leprechauns, banshees, changelings, wee folk, and fairies. Celtic history is full of mysticism, myths, and legends. While most people don't take these stories all that seriously, they can still haunt the subconscious. The Stolen Child was written by Yeats in 1886. It's set in Yeats' native county Sligo, as well as adjoining Elytrum. In the four stanzas of this poem, fairies are beckoning to a child with beautiful and fanciful images that will be preferable over the troubled world of mortals. But for all the wonders they describe, each stanza contains something a little dark and unsettling. Stolen fruit, mingled glances, disturbing dreams. Every stanza ends with a refrain, a sort of magic spell or incantation. In the fourth stanza, when they've successfully lured the child away, the fairies don't describe the troubles the child is leaving, but rather comforting images of home that he'll never experience again. So I'm left wondering whether the fairy world really is better than the world in which we live. See what you think. The Stolen Child by William Butler Yeats. Where dips the rocky highland of Sleuthwood in the lake, there lies a leafy island where flapping herons wake the drowsy water rats. There we've hid our fairy vats, full of berries and of reddest stolen cherries. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. Where the wave of moonlight glosses the dim gray sands with light, far off by furthest Rosses, we foot it all the night, weaving olden dances, mingling hands and mingling glances, till the moon has taken flight. To and fro we leap and chase the frothy bubbles, while the world is full of troubles and anxious in its sleep. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. Where the wandering water gushes from the hills above Glencar, in pools among the rushes that scarce could bathe a star, we seek for slumbering trout and whisper in their ears, give them unquiet dreams, leaning softly out in ferns that drop their tears over the young streams. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. Away with us he's going, the solemn hide. He'll hear no more the lowing of the calves on the warm hillside, or the kettle on the hob sing peace into his breast, or see the brown mice bob round and round the oatmeal chest. For he comes, the human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than he can understand.
Hi, I'm Sandra. I'll be reading Cohen's Fight with the Sea, which is a narrative poem by William Butler Yeats, written in 1893. This epic poem, like many of Yeats's works, draws upon the Irish mythology and folklore. It's characterized by its lyrical quality and blends the mystical world. We have a woman weaving webs and some druids chanting delusions and the natural world. Since this is a story, you should know the characters. We have Cohen, he's our warrior and our tragic hero. Emer, a lover from his past. and the nameless swineherd, which we learn later is his son. This is a kind of reverse Oedipus myth. Also, please note that the phrase "he must fight the horses of the sea" is metaphorical. It's referring to Cuchulain's inner battle to forgive himself after he realizes that he has done the unthinkable. So we have this tragic tale about a warrior. But as a woman reading this poem, I have to note that to me, it's not just a tragic tale about a warrior. It is also a cautionary tale about a woman's form. Cuchulain's Fight with the Sea by William Butler Yeats. A man came slowly from the setting sun to Emer rattling raiment in her dun, and said, "I am that swineherd whom you bid go watch the road between the wood and tide, but I have no need to watch it more." Then Emer cast the web upon the floor, and raising arms all rattled with the dye, parted her lips with a loud, sudden cry. That swineherd stared upon her face and said, "No man alive, no man among the dead has won the gold his cars of battle bring. But if your master comes home triumphant, why must you blench and shake from foot to crown?" Thereon he shook the more and cast him down upon the web-heaped floor, and cried his word, "With him is one sweet-throated like a bird. You dare me to my face." And thereupon she smote and rattled fist, and where her son herded the cattle in the stumbling feet, and cried with angry voice, "It is not meet to idle like away a common herd. I have long waited, mother, for that word, but wherefore now? There is a man to die. You have the heaviest arm in the stock. Whether under its daylight or its stars, my father stands amid his battle cars. But you have grown to be the taller man. Yet somewhere under starlight or the sun, my father stands. Worn out with wars, on foot, on horseback, or in battle cars. I only ask what way my journey lies, for he who made you bitter made you wise. The Red Branch camp in great company between woods rim and the horses of the sea. Go there and light a campfire at woods rim, but tell your name and lineage, whose blade compels, and wait till they have found some feasting man that the same oath has bound. Among those feasting men, Cuchulain dwelt, and his young sweetheart close beside him knelt, stared on the mournful wonder of his eyes, even as spring upon the ancient skies, and pondered on the glory of his days, and all around the heartstring told his praise. And Concobar, the Red Branch King of Kings, with his own fingers touched the brazen strings. At last Cuchulain spake. Some man has made his evening fire amid the leafy shade. I have often heard him singing to and fro. I have often heard the sweet sound of his bow. Seek out what man he is. One came and went. He bade me let all know he gives his name at the sword point and waits till we have found some feasting man that the same oath has found. Cuchulain cried, I am the only man of all this host so bound from childhood on. After short fighting in the leafy shade, he spake to the young man, is there no maid who loves you, no white arms to wrap you round? Or do you long for the dim, sleepy ground that you have come and dared me to my face? The dooms of men are in God's hidden place. Your head a while seemed like a woman's head that I loved once. Again the fighting sped, but now the war rage in Cuchulain woke, and through that new blade's guard, the old blade broke and pierced him. Speak before your breath is done. Cuchulain, I, mighty God, son. I put you from your pain. I can no more. While day its burden onto evening bore, with head bowed on his knees, Cullum stayed. Then Concobar sent that sweet-throated maid, and she to win him his gray hair caressed. In vain her arms, in vain her soft white breast. Then Concobar, the subtlest of men, ranking his druids round him 10 by 10, spake thus. For Helen will dwell there and brood for 3 days more in dreadful quietude, and then arise and raving slay us all. Chaunt in his ear delusions magical, that he might fight. The druids took them to their mystery and chaunted for 3 days. Helen stirred, stared on the horses of the sea, and heard the cars of battle and his own name cried, and fought with the unvulnerable time.
That was tremendous. Very difficult to read a long narrative poem like that and follow it. Really nice. The next poem is also by William Butler Yeats, and also has to do with fighting, and it's called The Rose of Battle. And the rose is a very complex symbol for Yeats. It's sort of like Shelley's intellectual beauty, sort of like this ideal of beauty and apprehension of meaning in the world. But at the same time, Yeats distinguished his rose symbol from Shelley's intellectual beauty by saying the rose not only was an ideal of beauty for mankind, but something to aspire to, but it also suffered along with mankind. So it participated in our plight and our suffering. So much more of a complex symbol. Maybe you might say like Christian symbol even in that way. So here in this poem, the poet invokes the rose. There's a bunch of fellows lining up on the shore to take the long ships out to battle. And then the poet invokes the rose to come witness this event. And then he asks the men lined up to go to battle to not go to battle, to not waste themselves in battles never done and useless conflict. And so there's a plea from the poet to the men. And then understanding that, some things are fated and it's going to happen anyway, he then returns to speaking to the rose and says, Rose, you're here too, and closes the poem. So it's just sort of like the sadness of how things turn out. Really, sort of like this, what my take from it. The rose of battle. Rose of all roses, rose of all the world, the tall, thought-woven sails that flap unfurled above the tide of hours trouble the air, and God's bell buoyed to be the water's care. While hushed from fear or loud with hope, a band with blown, spray-dabbled hair gather at hand. Turn! If you may, from battles never done, I call, as they go by me one by one. Danger no refuge holds, and war no peace. For him who hears love sing and never cease, beside her clean swept hearth, her quiet shade. But gather all for whom no love hath made a woven silence, for but came to cast a song into the air, and singing past, to smile on the pale dawn. And gather you, who have sought more than is in rain or dew, or in the sun and moon, or on the earth, or sighs amid the wandering starry mirth, or comes in laughter from the sea's sad lips, and wage God's battles in the long gray ships. The sad, the lonely, the insatiable. To these old nights shall all her mystery tell. God's bell has claimed them by the little cry of their sad hearts that may not live or die. Rose of all roses, Rose of all the world, you too have come, where the dim tides are hurled upon the wharves of sorrow, and heard ring the bell that calls us on the far sweet thing. Beauty, grown sad with its eternity, made you of us and of the dim gray sea. Our long ships loose thought-woven sails and wait, for God has bid them share an equal fate. And when at last, defeated in his wars, they have gone down under the same white stars, we shall no longer hear the little cry of our sad hearts that may not live nor die.
Now we're going to transition from Yeats' work from the 19th century to a contemporary Irish poet. Eva Boland was born in Dublin, Ireland. She taught at Trinity College there, University College, Dublin, Bowdoin College, and ultimately at Stanford University from 1996 until her recent death in 2020 at the age of 75. Over the course of her long career, Eva Boland emerged as one of the foremost female voices in Irish literature. In The Pomegranate, Boland illustrates beautifully the cyclical nature of the mother-daughter relationship as well as the complexity of the same. I love the juxtaposition of the story of Ceres and Persephone from Roman mythology, that she weaves into the wisdom of a modern mother trying to let her daughter manage her own curiosity and temptations and make her own mistakes. Eve ate the apple, Persephone ate from the pomegranate, and both lost their innocence. But Boland points out that it's an inevitable part of the cycle, not as suffering the consequences, so much as receiving a gift knowledge. Mm-hmm. The Pomegranate by Eva Boland. The only legend I have ever loved is the story of a daughter lost in hell and found and rescued there. Mm-hmm. Love and blackmail are the gist of it. Ceres and Persephone, the names. And the best thing about the legend is I can enter it anywhere and have. As a child in exile, in a city of fogs and strange consonants, I read it first, and at first I was an exiled child in the crackling dust of the underworld. The stars lighted. Later, I walked out in a summer twilight, searching for my daughter at bedtime. When she came running, I was ready to make any bargain to keep her. I carried her back past white beans and wasps and honey-scented woodlands. But I was serious then, and I knew winter was in store for every leaf on every tree on that leaf. Was inescapable for each one we passed. And for me, it is winter, and the stars are hidden. I climb the stairs and stand where I can see my child asleep beside her teen magazines, her can of Coke, her plate of uncut fruit, pomegranate. How did I forget it? She could have come home and been safe and ended the story and all our heartbroken searching, but she reached out a hand and plucked a pomegranate. She put out her hand and pulled down the French sound for apple and the noise of stone and the proof that even in the place of death, at the heart of legend, in the midst of rocks full of unshed tears ready to be diamonds by the time the story was told, a child can be hungry. I could warn her. There's still a chance. The rain is cold. The road is flint colored. The suburb has cars and cable television. The veiled stars are above ground. It is another world. But what else can a mother give her daughter with such beautifulness and time? If I defer the grief, I will diminish the gift. The legend will be hers as well as mine. She will enter it as I have. She will wake up. She will hold the papery flushed skin in her hand and to her lips. I will say nothing.
Paul Muldoon was born in 1951 in County Armagh in Northern Ireland. He's considered to be one of the greatest poets to be born in the latter half of the 20th century. He has been recognized with numerous awards and fellowships, including the T.S. Eliot Prize and the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. In 1969, Muldoon attended Queen's University Belfast, and it was there he met Seamus Heaney, who became an influential friend and mentor. And I'll tell you about him later. Congar Behn is an interpretive translation of a poem written by an Irish monk in a German monastery in the 9th century. Several modern poets have written their own translations, but we'll also hear Seamus Heaney's version later in today's program. The poem describes a monk's special relationship with his companion, a white cat named Congar. Muldoon's interpretation is a sublime piece. The rhyming pattern looks straightforward on paper. However, like the cat stalking the mouse and the monk searching for the right word, Muldoon draws the reader into her own hunt for the end of the phrase. I suspect that I was assigned this piece because, as the minister of music for a church, I am frequently assisted in my music preparations by my own cat. Congar Behn by Paul Muldoon. Myself and Congar, my white cat, have much the same calling in that, much as Congar goes after mice, I go hunting for the precise word. He and I are much the same in that I'm gladly lost to fame when on the Georgics say I'm bent, while he seems perfectly content with his lot. Life in the cloister can't possibly lose its luster so long as there's some crucial point with which he might by leaps and bounds yet grapple, into which yet sink our teeth. The bold Congar will think through mouse snagging, much as I muse on something naggingly abstruse. Then fix his clear, unflinching eye on our line-white cell wall, while I focus, insofar as I can, on the limits of what a man may know. Something of his rapture at his most recent mouse capture, I share when I, too, get to grips with what has given me the slip. And so we while away our whiles, never cramping each other's styles, but practicing the noble arts that so lift and lighten our hearts. Congar going in for the kill with all his customary skill, while I, sharp-witted, swift and sure, shed light on what had seemed obscure.
That concludes our first act. Again, so delighted that we have such a great crowd today. You almost seem like you're in a good mood or something. If there is an applause line, it's this. We've got corned beef sandwiches here in the reception room. Help yourself. There's other refreshments here as well. We're going to take about 15 minutes and we'll start the second act of the program.
Hey, Robert.
No, get ready.
Yes.
Somebody else
I didn't even see you sneak in. I just,
Okay.
like a cat on the.
And at least if you want to make something. Yeah, when you start something. You're very I do. I didn't know him more saying. Yeah. That's like, but I think that. Yeah. This looks like, yeah, it's really great. Good one. One side. I text Grace. It takes me back to three or yeah. 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 Oh, they see. Yeah. Oh, it's not again. I really don't. Yes. So we're asking them. I see such fun. And there are other people who are translating. It's one that people sort of and researchers just it makes me so for me, I thought it was like they were I still It's reflective now. I see what you're doing. It's actually that's the scene. Very much. It's a yeah, you're the one number. So, the lunch I can stand. As I just really I don't tell you.
Dust. Dust is on cats.
Leave it to me.
For now, I'm showing every two, so I will also.
Leaves on the way.
He did those on another. And he did well, the next I was taking is not actually history. It's just one with. It seems like it might not be presentation. I know it's not like this. And like, whether it's Friday,
That's right. Wow, I'm very interested in seeing. And I'm reading I knew this was. One guy. Guy.
I understand why he gave me one of the poems. But especially the other one, I struggled to get it. I work at the Friday, felt like I understood what you wanted. I want to ask you if you think I'm sure that's such a good job. And I don't know why so long. Because when I did show up, they're so great. I was like, well, why did I procrastinate? Part of it is probably being nervous about the convention. I would love to get tested with I greatly suspect that a constellation of
I actually just gave it as a.
consisting of difficulty driving and estimating the number of projects. One part. You probably read the math. I gave up on the primary thing. I was in the geology course, it consisted of drawing the topographs and map construction. I gave up after a half. So, well, that's how we're gonna have to love this and different sorts of. I considered, I had an A after the survey. So I considered I counted it. I got that sort of. Like this fight, that's like a measurable. Tree. I once actually. I also, I actually, I do, but you, so I'm quiet, I Celtic assessment on the slide. Not Welsh, but Scottish. The bank you can. Our fathers, mothers. My dryer has not worked in months. There's a place that was.
Back here with the white jacket. You don't need to dry all over your house.
I do have a drying rack, but it wouldn't. The only pair of slacks on the dryer time to be the one I want. Welcome back.
And deeply grateful that you're at the meeting capacity. You know, that particularly glad few feet up front, but they're available if you want to get a little bit closer. We will also make sure that for the volume is enough that you can, you can hear us in the back, or we're going to try to do that a little bit better. I understand that in a room like this, sometimes sound can go a little bit dead while we speak. So I see our leaders are all ready. Like we got everyone back. I hope you enjoyed the refreshments.
So good.
Thank you for putting that all together. Thank you.
I can be a little honest, he's the one that made the corned beef sliders.
And it's surprising when you go. I can eat that much. Anyway, welcome back again. Just a like that. Thanks to Celtic Folklore and Poetry and those who have joined us online. This will be, it is live streamed, and it is also being recorded. And if anybody would like to go through this again, or enjoy it again, I will be posting it online on my Facebook page. It's called Poets Almanac. If you're not on Facebook, grab my business card on the table outside, just email me and I'll make sure you get a link if you'd like to reference this performance again. As we dive into the second act, I noted in the beginning that a lot of the collections in the first act were by William Butler. In addition to being a successful poet, he was also a playwright. He wrote several novels. He was really the Irish man of letters. If there was any one individual responsible for the Irish literary revival, it would certainly have to be William Butler Yeats. Now, why, in regards to Celtic folklore, he did something that was quite unusual and important. Irish folklore, and as it made its way and developed over the years, very little of it was actually put down on pen to paper. A lot of it was done just by an oral tradition. The few elements that he could find as he was gathering research for an anthology that he was looking to edit, curate, and then publish. It was very, very challenging. There were a lot of conflicts between different variations, and depending on what region you were from, or whether you were north of Belfast or south of Dublin, people told the stories many, many different ways. Nonetheless, he was able to gather in a lot of this material into a single anthology, which was originally entitled Irish Fairies and Folklore of the Peasantry. That's an unusual term for us today, but back in the middle of the 19th century, not so much. It was published in 1888. And then, the topic, because one of his reasons for doing this was not just preserving, the literary lore of Ireland. He wanted to make it more accessible. He came out with an abridged child version of the same thing in 1892. Now, if you love Irish poetry, you love Irish stories, you love Irish folklore, get yourself a copy. It's available on Amazon for $13. I get no commission, I promise. But it is really, truly worthwhile to read through, and especially if you can, being able to share some of the children's stories with children who want to think that Anyway, we're going to be kicking off the second half here. We'll be started off, and I think we start off with dark, right? By Sandy, and won't be as long as the first portion. And let's get underway. All right, thank you so much.
Dark Rosaleen was written by James Clarence Mangan, who was born in 1803 and died in 1849. At first glance, this appears to be a love poem, but we need to consider that at the time of its writing, Irish nationalism was outlawed. So what better way for a political and spiritual rebel like Mangan to declare his love for Ireland, but to mask it as a love poem? Dark Rosaleen by James Clarence Mangan. Oh, my dark Rosaleen, do not sigh, do not weep. The priests are on the ocean green. They march along the deep. There's wine from the royal cope upon the ocean green, and Spanish ale shall give you hope, my dark Rosaleen. my own bosom. Shall glad your heart, shall give you hope, shall give you help and hope, my dark bosom. Over hills and through dales have I roamed for your sake. All yesterday I sailed with sails on the river and on lake. The Erne at its highest flood I dashed across unseen, for there was lightning in my blood, my dark bosom, my own bosom. Oh, there was lightning in my blood, red lightning through my blood, my dark bosom. All day long in unrest, to and fro I do move. The very soul within my breast is wasted for you, love. The heart in my bosom faints to think of you, my queen, my life of life, my saint of saints, my dark bosom, my own Rosalie. To hear your sweet and sad complaints, my life, my love, my saint of saints, my dark Rosalie. Woe and pain, pain and woe are my lot, night and noon. To see your bright face clouded so, like to the mournful moon. But yet will I rear your throne again in golden sheen. 'Tis you shall reign alone, my dark Rosalie, my own Rosalie. 'Tis you shall have the golden throne, 'tis you shall reign and reign alone, my dark Rosalie. Over dews, over sands will I fly for your wheel. Your holy, delicate white hands shall girdle me with steel. At home in your emerald bowers, from morning's dawn till eve, you'll pray for me, my flower of flowers, my dark Rosalie, my fond Rosalie. You'll think of me through daylight hours, my virgin flower, my flower of flowers, my dark Rosalie. I could scale the blue air, I could plow the high hills. Oh, I could kneel all night in prayer to heal your many ills. And one beamy smile from you would float like light between my toils and me, my own, my true, my dark Rosalie, my fond Rosalie. Would give my life and soul anew, my dark Rosalie. Oh, the air shall run red with redundance of blood. The earth shall rock beneath our tread, and flames wrap hill and wood. And gun peal and slogan cry wake many a glen serene. Ere you shall fade, ere you shall die, my dark Rosalie, my own Rosalie. The judgment hour must first be nigh, ere you could fade, ere you can die, my dark Rosalie.
This is another collection by James Mangan, who's actually really quite a gifted scholar, another Irish scholar who spent some time in Germany. And this poem actually is written from a vision that he had while he was in Germany of the Irish Middle Ages, and one of the last really sort of successful kings in Ireland, not of Ireland, the King of Connaught. And his name is Cathal Mór. And basically, that's all you really need to know. It's like one of the successful people who was resisting the British invasion. And he's, so as an Irish nationalist, pursuing his studies in Germany, Mangan had this vision, and he wrote it down as a poem, and he's speaking about sort of waking up in this strange land he doesn't recognize, only to find out it's Ireland in the 1300s. And at the end of the poem, we see he wakes back up in Germany, the Teutons land. And I have to say, the sort of sound of his poems sort of have like a rollicking rhythmicalness of Edgar Allan Poe in me. You notice there's a lot of strong rhyme and idealistic verbiage. But this poem has a great refrain at the end of every stanza, which I encourage you to join in. 'Twas in the reign of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand. You might say any part that you like. In the 13th century. I walked entranced through a land of morn. The sun, with wondrous excess of light, shone down and glanced over seas of corn and lustrous gardens, a left and right. Even in the clime of resplendent Spain beams no such sun upon such a land. But it was the time, 'twas in the reign of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand. Anon stood nigh by my side a man of princely aspect and port sublime. Him queried I, "O my lord and Khan, what clime is this, and what golden time?" When he, "The clime is a clime to praise. The clime is Erin's, the green and bland. It is the time, these be the days of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand." Then saw I thrones encircling fire, and a dome rose near me as if by spell, whence flowed the tones of silver lyres and many voices and wreathed swell. In their thrilling chime fell on mine ears as the heavenly hymn of an angel band. It is now the time, the years of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand. I sought that hall, and behold, a change from light to darkness, from joy to woe. Kings, nobles, all looked aghast and strange. The minstrel group sate in dumbest show. Had some great crime wrought this dread amaze, this terror? None seemed to understand. 'Twas then the time, these were the days of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand. I again walked forth, but lo, the sky showed flecked with blood, and an alien sun glared from the north. And there stood on high amid his shorn beams a skeleton. It was by the stream of the castled Main, one autumn eve in the Teutons land, that I dreamed this dream of the time and the reign of Cahal Mór of the wine red hand.
Thank you, Greg, for that entirely understated performance. That's outstanding. There's some kind of groupie thing going on. I thought I saw some cell phone lights going on. I have been producing spoken word events since 2016. Actually, it was part of one of those early efforts. And, over the years, they've just gotten better and better, especially with the people that I work with continuously, and even those who are due to these events. I gotta tell you, today I am enjoying this as much as I think you guys are. I'm having a blast. Now, the next piece, I nearly cut from the program.
No.
Here. Here. Let me explain. I thought it might be helpful to understand that this is the original piece that I'm reading. All right, actually, when Rachel first talked about this, it's nearly a year, not a year, but 8 months ago. And coming up with some ideas, I have been captured by a piece of Irish lore that talks about sweet God. Now, the spelling that you see in the program is an old Gaelic spelling of the word sweet. That's the surname. Sweet. It's about a king sweet. And the Gaelic phrase refers to the madness of King Sweet. Now, to break this story out a little bit, it's helpful to understand. The story is about a king who falls under a curse. and the curse causes him to leave his homeland and wander the earth, or at least the northern British Isles and Ireland. And he must do so as if he were a bird. Interesting concept. I'm glad you're all sitting down when I make the next statement, but it was all came out of the land dispute. So, the land dispute arose that King Sweeney, who was somewhat territorial in his sense of the land that he ruled over, was very upset that a local monk, who we might know as Saint Ronan, was marking out boundaries for a new church and monastery in his land. And he disagreed with those markings, and it turned violent. He ended up killing one of those monks with his spear. And then that's what befell him, was the curse of Saint Ronan. And with that, he was to wander the earth as if he were a bird, forever migrating. And in that process, the story goes that he actually started to become like a bird, taking on the appearance of a bird, actually growing feathers and molting. You know, and in this journey, he encounters friends, he encounters former allies, people who are actually trying to hunt him down and kill him. You know, it's got some aspects to it that we might find in the Greek reading of Odysseus. He also, there's the story of his wife, the queen, whose name was Aorat, which is just an early Gallic form of Aaron. And how eventually she even spurns him because of what he has become. Now, I won't give away the ending, so to speak, but at some point he breaks the curse. The curse is lifted. So that's a capsule summary of the story. For the last several months, I've been working on an original piece to capture this, and the more and more that I work on it, the more and more I realize that I have my own madness because I love poetry and I've got a story to tell. And what I've got here today is what I call a good second draft. And there's more work to do on it. I think that art can be understood and appreciated even in its unfinished form. So if you come back next year,
It might be finished.
P.T. Barnes did say leave them on more. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the creative process. Who in the audience writes poetry? So Goodman. Okay, great. That's awesome. I love that. It's something I only started about 14 years ago. And, well, I'm completely captured by it. I think, you know, looking at my friend Gregg down here has written so much poetry. I'm sure you can probably say the same thing. And eventually you become servant to it. Right. Anyway, that being said, so the structure of the poem is this. There's 12 cantos or 12 stanzas, 4 lines each. It is a self-conscious use of what's known as iambic hexameter and iambic triniter or trimeter. Okay, just means that some lines have 6 beats, some lines have 8 beats in order to match it up. It's also a self-conscious expression of a movement that was utilized heavily in the 1920s, especially in America by poets like Hilda Doolittle, in the use of images. And what that is that it uses very short phrases to create imagery in telling the story. Anyway, I won't belabor too much about the technical aspects of it. I'm seeing you're losing your that guy's asleep. But nonetheless, I thought there might be something to this. And again, I would invite you to come back another time when we're going to revisit this maybe in a more finished form. So, the lost days of King Sweeney. In Glen Cobain, where myths arise, Sweeney reigned, a warrior's guise. He fought for a land held too dear, shunned trespass, even from those clear. Bell chimes of Ronan, distant sound, intruded Sweeney's sacred ground. Fury sparked, he stormed outside. Aorat's grasp, his cloak denied. The fabric tore, fate's harsh decree. Unclothed he stood, mad and free. Romans monk marked churches line. Swede sees saint, wrathful sign. Congo's plea of battle's call turned his rage, war claimed him all. The Psalter lost, then returned strange. Saint's curse unleashed, a bitter change. Bird form fell, madness grew deep. On new branches, dreams did sleep. His warrior hands numb and cold, weapon lost, blossoms untold. Through forest wild his madness spread, him and allies watched in dread. He sought Aram, but turned away. His throne usurped, another's sway. Across the seas to islands fled, from Scotland's hills to England bred, through battles fought within and out, with kindred souls his pain did sprout. Her Kyle's fall a watery grave, Sweeney's journey no path to save. Glen, O king, call its former fame. Anon Aram scorn whence love once lay. Moling's refuge old friends sought, peaceful sleep, so dearly now bought. At vespers a cursed spear did fly, off the vent beneath the sky. Sweeney's fate that tingled thread, curses life a piece ahead. From king to bird, a tragic fall, redemption awaits beyond it all. At night rhymes are thus whispered low, how Sweeney's spirit was his foe. Children's dreams hear how we cry of pride's lost dreams in hidden tides. By madness reign mid sorrow gloom, Sweeney's spirit respite anon tomb. His tale remains a lesson start of a flight, a fall, and an unleft mark.
Davies intro. I had two different people ask me what Behn meant. Conger Behn. Conger is the cat's name. Behn is white. It's white conger. James Heaney is recognized as one of the major poets of the 20th century. He was born in County Derry in Northern Ireland and lived for many years in Dublin. He was the author of over 20 volumes of poetry and criticism and edited many widely used anthologies. Among several other accolades, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. His work is respected by academics and critics, and yet so popular with the public that he is one of the most widely read poets in the world. In fact, in 2008, 2/3 of the poetry collections sold in the United Kingdom were works by Heaney. His appeal comes from the approachability of his writing. New York Times critic Brad Lighthouser said Heaney carries the authenticity and believability of the plain spoken, even though, herein his magic, his words are anything but plain spoken. In 2006, Poetry Magazine asked Heaney to write his own version of Conger Behn. Heaney himself offered comments about the project. He explained that the poem's most famous version by Robin Flower, published in 1912, was one he knew by heart, and therefore not something he would have attempted without the magazine's invitation. Heaney went on. A hangover helped, and I was happy to find that I had enough Irish and enough insulation to get started. Here's Conger Behn by James Heaney. Bongrabon and I at work. Adepts equals cat and clerk. His whole instinct is to hunt. Mine, to free the meaning pent. More than loud acclaim, I love books, silence, thought, my alcove. Happy for me, Bongrabon, child plays round some mouse's den. Truth to tell, just being here, housed alone, housed together, adds up to its own reward. Concentration, stealthy art. Next thing, an unwary mouse bears his flank. Ponger pounces. Next thing, lines that held and held meaning back begin to yield. All the while, his round, bright eye fixes on the wall, while I focus my less piercing gaze on the challenge of the page. With his unsheathed, perfect nails, Ponger springs, exults, and kills. When the longed-for, difficult answers come, I, too, exult. So it goes, to each his own. No vying, no vexation, taking pleasure, taking pains. Kindred spirits, veterans. Day and night, soft fur, soft pad. Bongrabon has learned his trade. Day and night, my own hard work. Solves the cruxes, makes a mark.
The producer of spoken word, yeah, thinking around poetry. I'm pretty much relegated to a role these days of mostly just editorial. In terms of collecting the pieces and trying to weave something together into a loose narrative, type and style and theme. It's pretty easy to do here. And I just want to simply acknowledge that the job is easier, especially this go around, on the magnificent effort by our performance readers who researched and produced those notes before each performance reading. You know, part of the goal here is not only that we appreciate poetry and like poetry and want to share it with others, but we stand on the shoulders of giants. And when someone gets up before another, even if you're just sitting next to someone on a park bench and reciting poetry to them, or whether you're in Radio City Music Hall or you're right here in Thompson Park, bringing poetry to voice and to life is an extraordinary skill, and I want to thank my readers today for doing just that. And so here's the cheesy pitch. If any of you appreciate what we've done here today, first off, thank you for coming. We do this for the opportunity to share with you, and it's a blessing for us to be able to do so. If you're ever interested in getting involved in a spoken word event, good place to start is right with Monmouth County Powers. There's a schedule of our get-togethers, which are monthly throughout the rest of the year. The next meeting will be here, right, in this room. And then in the fair months, we give ourselves over to the Thompson barn, and which is a bit of an inspiring space as well. And we've used other productions there as well. But if it's something that interests you, well, join us. If you're interested in getting involved in the spoken word event that I produce, my business card on the table outside, just send me an email. I'll make sure that you're informed and you get invited whenever we do our next event. And then, let me see, I'd like to call up each of the performance readers. I'd like to start with Gregg Brown, if you wouldn't mind coming up. How can we help him? I've known Gregg's work for a number of years now. Great, Greg Chan. He's kind of and it's here to us today. And they're very involved with the River Read series over at the West Bay Library, which is the second Saturday, Generally.
Yes, of every month.
Right. Really, great reading program. They bring in published poets and really magnificent content from men, usually followed by a open mic session for anything that you may have brought or would like to share. And then I would like to bring up Susan Davies. Obviously, that and more, very talented. I've had an opportunity to read and also work together. This program, your readings were, dare I say, flawless. That's wonderful what you brought to the table. And thank you. And one of my dearest and oldest friends, Sandra Behn. I'm not sure I can find enough words in terms of gratitude that this is a relationship that's going on its fifth decade, maybe. Maybe fourth. I'm not that good at that. But anyway, just someone that I have had actually my first year of high school, and we just became good friends and have been able to maintain that through a number of serendipitous moments, and just absolutely delighted that she has been involved in every spoken word about nearly every spoken word that we've been able to produce. She is a teacher up in Somerset County. Yeah,
Middlesex.
Okay. I've been doing that for how many years?
So 22?
So first timer.
Yeah.
I always, she's not just a former teacher of poetry, she's a great teacher. She shares everything that she reads online, which is one of the benefits of social media. It's what we get to share, which is important. We can talk that we have to Diet Coke at the gas station, maybe not so important, but she shares the insights and caption and review of everything she reads, and it's very, very useful. I'm not going to go back.
You're actually. That's bad. Like Mrs. Behn reads.
Both student literature and adult. Right?
Good stuff. So that concludes our program. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you get to join us for a future event in the near future.
That is very